kids, might be a little bit graphic. So for sensitive viewers, maybe you might want to, if you're going to look away, now's the time, because we're going to be talking about zombie chickens. Oh my god, quack. No, not quack, cluck. Oh my god. Yeah, zombie chicken viruses. Okay, now this has to do with a story going from, well, it's kind of, a lot of people are covering it, but I'm getting it from Mail Online. And this is the Pentagon's guide, and this is, okay, yeah, the Pentagon's guide to surviving a zombie apocalypse. The U.S. military plans how to deal with undead chickens, space invaders, and vegetarians. Yeah, the vegetarians, that sounds dangerous. Okay, so the Pentagon has a plan in order to preserve the sanctity of human life, revealed in an unclassified document called CONOP 8888. The document, dated April 30th, 2011, is detailed synopsis for battling zombies. Plans include collecting grain for water and consumption. And smoking zombies with, shooting them and stuff. It's not often you hear of a zombie and fears of a zombie invasion, and if you do, it's almost certainly on television. But the events of the apocalypse, brought about by an armed army of undead, the Pentagon has a plan in order to preserve the sanctity of human life among all non-zombie humans. The country's contingency plans for zombie onslaught emerged in the form of an unclassified document obtained by Foreign Policy magazine called CONOP 8888, otherwise known as Counter Zombie Dominance. Okay, where did they get D on it? Okay, whatever. Yeah, so, okay, so keep going with the story here. Alright, the document is dated April 30th and is a detailed synopsis of battling many kinds of zombies. According to the plan, worst case threat scenario is a zombie attack in which zombies eating lots of humans, therefore infecting quickly and leaving little time for response. The document also addresses CZs, otherwise known as chicken zombies. Dem's the bad ones. Although it sounds ridiculous, this is actually one proven case of zombies that actually exist. The plan states, yeah. So there are chicken. The so-called CZ occurs when hens that can no longer lay eggs are euthanized by farmers with carbon monoxide, buried and then claw their way back to the surface. CONOP 8888 notes. Otherwise possible attacks include evil magic zombies. That's horrible. Created through occult experimentation, and vegetarian zombies. Well, you might not think of vegetarian zombies as a threat, but then once they start eating all the trees, then the oxygen will go away and we'll die. So we have to shoot them too. It doesn't say anything about shooting them, but I'll just add that in there. But anyway, which survives on plants, so pose no threats to human life, and zombies from space. Killer Clowns from Mars, if you ever seen that, or Killer Clowns from Space, whatever it was. If you ever get a chance to see that movie, it's like one of the worst B movies you'll ever watch, and you'll laugh your ass off. The report contains a disclaimer that this plan was not actually designed as a joke, but originated after the military planners in Omaha, Nebraska, wanted a scenario dealing with a wide spread of national emergencies. The creation of a zombie attack plan that covered training civilians how to survive in a post-apocalyptic world deployed by a military was also a large factor in the plans. The document is identified as a training tool used in a house training exercise where students learn about the basic concepts of military planning in order to development through a functional training scenario. Navy Captain Pamela Coons wrote to the magazine in the email. This document is not a strategic command plan. It is not unusual for armies to be called upon to save the day in zombie films. In 2004 comedy Shaun of the Dead, excellent movie, soldiers arrived just in time to save the film's hero. In 2012, troops in the U.S. were trained using mock zombie invasion. I remember seeing the footage from that. Hundreds of military, law enforcement, and medical personnel observed a Hollywood-style production zombie attack as their emergency response training. In scenarios dubbed Zombie Apocalypse, a VIP was trapped in a village surrounded by zombies when a bomb exploded. Went too far here. The VIP was wounded, and his team had to move him through a town while dodging bullets and shooting at the invading zombies. At one point, some of the team are hit by zombies. And have to be taken to field medical facility for decontamination and treatment. The Pentagon is not the only country with a plan, so does Britain. They have a plan too. The 2012 Britain contingency plan for zombie onslaught emerged in a response to a query from a number of the public. A Freedom of Information request shows that the surprising level of readiness for the event. The Ministry of Defense would not lead efforts to plan such a horrible attack or deal with the aftermath reported by the Daily Telegraph, because the role would rest with the Cabinet Office, which coordinates emergency planning for the government. The MOD replied to the FOL request in the event that the apocalypse incident, e.g. the zombies, any plans to rebuild and return England to its pre-attack glory would be led by Cabinet Office, and thus any planning activity would also take place there. The Ministry of Defense role in such event would be provided military support to civilian authorities, not to take the lead. Consequently, the Ministry of Defense household no information on this matter. I think that's about it for the article. Okay, so my thoughts on this. Okay, so this is something, I think it was LPG 79. I don't know if that, I think that one got proven to be a hoax, or LPQ 79. I'm not sure if that one got proven to be a hoax or not, but it might have been. But anyway, yes, so some people ask, oh, this one, that's a freaky one right there. That one, and then here's the zombie chicken. That's what a zombie chicken looks like. That's real. Because they have those little eyelid things, and the chicken's fine. But anyway, yeah, zombie chickens. But anyway, yeah, so they did this training in 2012, and, everybody has fun with it, whatever. Now, a lot of people will speculate, okay, what are they really training for? Well, in the prepper community, you'll probably notice a high percentage of preppers always love these zombie apocalypse analogies. They always love, lately if you've been watching my channel, you've been watching me shoot a lot of zombies in the face. Now, I was never one of those people that were like hardcore into the zombies, but it's fun to shoot at zombie targets and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what's this whole idea of preparing for the zombie apocalypse? Well, let's look at it this way. If you're prepared for the zombie apocalypse, you're prepared for just about anything. I mean, what else could be worse than a zombie apocalypse? Really, like, there's not, let me rephrase that. What else is worse than the apocalypse that is still survivable? Like, I mean, let's say an asteroid the size of the planet hits the planet. Well, there's just nothing you can do unless you build a spaceship and, go to another planet, right? There's nothing you can do there. A virus that breaks out and just kills everything. Well, again, there's not much you could do there, but you could kind of build yourself a biodome or something. But a zombie apocalypse is something. It would simulate a World War III. It would also simulate, a massive food shortage. It would also simulate water shortage. It would also simulate just living in tight quarters. It would simulate a lot of things that we actually experience on this planet in war zones, where, okay, you have to live within a building, maybe one block area, because if you go try to make it out of that block, you might be shot by, fighting in between. Use Damascus as an example right now. You would not want to be in downtown Damascus because, there's bullets whizzing everywhere. So maybe you're on the third floor and nobody's found you for the past 3 weeks, and you've been collecting rainwater from the roof, but food's getting scarce, and, you got to scrounge whatever you got, that type of thing. Well, that's what this kind of does, because moving around zombies would be almost, like a horde of zombies. Moving around a horde of zombies is probably no less dangerous than trying to move around a bunch of, moving around during a civil war, or moving around during an invasion, a foreign military invasion, a coup, whatever. So again, if you could survive in the zombie apocalypse, you'd be able to survive in those scenarios. So that's kind of what I think they're getting at. Now, other people say, well, is it that they're training to do this because the zombies are really representing, people in mass riots? That's in riots. Well, that's a possibility too. She's got a freaking head. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny too. Zombie chickens. But anyway. Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, you don't know what the scenario is going to be, but how people in a major panic mode, they pretty much act like zombies anyway. They don't do rational things. They move as a mass group and destroy a lot of things. It's complete chaos. So that's what the training represents. So I'm not opposed to that at all. Knowing what's going on in the world today, yes, I know that a lot of law enforcement and military use these training scenarios for basically an SHTF, WROL, populist uprising kind of training. That's what they're doing it for. But again, the training I'm not opposed to. For the most part, it's the context of the training. And the reason why they took the zombie apocalypse as a training thing is because it was the least controversial. It's not singling out Muslims, it's not singling out Christians, it's not singling out gun owners, it's not singling out low income people, it's not singling out anybody, it's singling out zombies. Except for the vegetarian zombies, they're the worst zombies. And then the chicken zombies, freaking chicken zombies. Gobble, you cluckhead, gobble. That's all I gotta say. What a lovely couple. Yeah, but anyway, so the training has already been, a lot of places do it, and the people participate in it, and they have fun and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when you really strip it all away and you look at it and say, okay, well, what is the military's main response to all these zombies? And that is the thing that a lot of people probably don't catch on to, is that most of them will end up shooting you. That's kind of their main thing, is to shoot you dead. So with that said, again, the training is needed because it doesn't just train the military and the police, but it also trains the ambulance. Let's say there's a mass earthquake or a huge, like the fires going on in California right now, with the droughts. So they have all these mass fires. Well, you may take mass casualties if the fires turn one way, and you're definitely going to have people running in all directions, completely panic. So fire crews, they benefit from this training. So it's not just the military and the police that benefit, but it's the EMT crews, which I'm all for them. The better they're prepared to deal with an overwhelming situation, the better we are. But then, if you're participating in one of these zombie things, well, you kind of get to see the idea of, hey, well, maybe I should have this on hand or that on hand, or be prepared for it in case it happens. Now, the last part I'm going to touch on, just because I know everybody else has just covered this the past couple of days. I picked this story up off of Mary Greeley, but I mean, I know this. I've been following this kind of story scenario for about a year and a half, and every time some new information on it kind of pops up, I tend to make a little bit on it. But the last part is, let's go back to one thing, okay, that was said in this article, that the only zombie virus out there right now that they know of, okay, is the zombie chicken virus. Now, if you don't know anything about chickens, and being I guess you could say I live in the country. I wouldn't necessarily say I live on a farm, but growing up, we've raised turkeys, we raised pigs. We had a little lamb at one point. It was a little goat, a little kid. They call it baby goat kid, and it was sick and it ended up dying. But we had that. I had a pet deer, that I rescued. We had pigs. We had all kinds of. We even had a horse at one point. That was many years ago. And there used to be cows, before my time. There used to be cows on the family land that I'm on and stuff like that. So we raised things, okay. And one of the things we did raise quite often was either turkeys or chickens. Okay, now come time to kill the turkeys or chickens, and this is something that's quite morbid. It's mortifying when you see it for the first time. A typical bird like that, okay. Have you ever heard the expression running around like a chicken with their head cut off? Well, it's because they actually can't kind of run around. Well, they don't really run around. It's just their body goes into spasm when you cut their heads off. So what happens is you got the chicken's there. You pet the chicken. You put the chicken to sleep. You roll him on his back. You put him to sleep. And then you put his head on the block, and you take the axe and clunk, off goes the head, and you hold the legs while the wings will flap for like about 10, 20 seconds. It's a nerve reaction. The whole body goes into spasm. But if you were to actually set the bird down, the legs, they kick enough that they almost kind of the thing will actually run for a couple of feet and fall over and kick and it's like really graphic to see. It's quite messy. So and the head will gawk and stuff like that for a couple of minutes after. So I know I'm explaining something really, really gross, but it's a nerve reaction. But that's not a zombie. What they're talking about, okay, is that yes, the thing will spasm after. Okay, so if they kill it with carbon monoxide, like the old hens, like they were saying, okay, and they bury them, well, the thing will start spasming, and then it'll unbury itself, and it might happen, a couple hours after. Some things when they get, depending on how they get killed, will twitch for maybe even up to a day after it's dead. As creepy as that sounds, but that's just reality. That's what things do. It's natural. It's not something that people, they don't see it in the movies. They don't see it. A lot of people don't know what reality is. Things twitch when they die. So with that said, using the carbon monoxide, there's probably a nerve reaction that's happening within the chicken, I would imagine, once it's dead. So technically, it is kind of technically a zombie because it's reanimated. It's brainless, it's completely brainless, but it's animated. So, it's not really, it's not going after things to eat them and stuff like that. But technically, it is a zombie at that point because the nerves are still going. It's just its brain dead, right? So that's what's happening now with all the bird viruses out there. This is where I like to make people think of it. Think of all the bird viruses out there that are completely deadly to humans, and how many bird viruses that can't be transferred to humans, and how many viruses that can be transferred to humans via bird. Some sort of like H1N1. But H1N1 is basically it's man-made. Most viruses out there, AIDS, Ebola, all those really bad viruses, most of those are stuff that escaped from a lab. And if like viruses that have mutated, for example, AIDS, they found it in monkeys, and until people started messing with it, then people started getting it, AIDS started, from what I remember, it was in monkey. Now you're going to get a lot of saying, no, it's not this, it's not that, because of course once, I used to work in a CDC building in Ottawa, Ontario, and you name the virus, they pretty much treated it there. Now I was just a security guard, so I never handled the viruses or anything. But considering the building and considering I was replacing a guard who got sick, who was like really sick and they didn't know what he was sick with, it's like everybody else was walking around the building with anti-static suits on, and here I am, like just kind of my security. What a nightmare. The things you do for minimum wage. But anyway, bottom line was, like all these viruses, like they take the viruses, they test them, and then they try to see, well, what worst case scenario, what if we adapted it to this strain of virus, what could it mutate into? And that's when things get out of hand. And then of course somehow these things always tend to crawl out of the lab via ant or whatever, they send the wrong barrel to the wrong place, and and the rest is history, right? So this reanimated undead chickens walking around, which I think they just twitch until they uncover themselves or whatever. I'm sure if you buried them 6 feet under, they wouldn't come up. But if you just do a bit of dirt on them, they'd probably come up overnight or something like that. So with that said, what kind of virus? Imagine one of these chickens get euthanized, but they have a type of virus that, okay, they die, and then with the carbon monoxide, it hypersteroids this virus that they have, and they do come alive, and they do start attacking things. Yeah, I mean, what would you do with zombie chickens running around? I mean, you can't even make that up, right? That would be just, what would they do to you? So anyway, you got these zombie chickens. Next thing you know, a person gets the virus, and bingo, you've got your virus. Like in my last zombie kind of zombie video I made, there kind of, what kind of cause would there be, and there is a recorded human zombie apocalypse in our history that we know of, and that was in 1699, I guess it was. Is it 1790? 1699 or something like that. William Shakespeare. Somebody told me what the play was, but anyway, there was a comet passing the Earth just at the time when William Shakespeare was doing a play. And there was whatever was off this comet basically released a form of botulism, and it came down into a neighboring village and infected the people. The people, in sense, just started going lunatic. They were, eating their own hands and ripping people apart and ripping themselves apart. And this mob of basically zombies stumbled into Shakespeare's theater, and people see this going on, and because the show must go on, what they started doing was killing these zombies and piling them up underneath the stage. Like, you can't make this up. This is craziness. And basically, that's what it was. It was a form of botulism that made people act like zombies. And apparently, I forget if somebody could. Uh, if somebody told me what the play was, but anyway, I covered it before. The first time I heard of it, but yeah, that was the first zombie apocalypse on that's recorded on this earth that we know of. So how many of them that were zombie apocalypses that we don't know? Now, technically, these people, they weren't reanimated dead. They were basically people infected with a form of botulism. So, okay, to the letter, legal term of zombie, no, they were not. These were just people that were infected with a virus that made their brain go to mush, kind of thing, and make them do really crazy things. Much like people on bath salts. You know what I mean? So that said, my version of the zombie apocalypse, okay, is really not the reanimated dead type of thing, as much as some sort of form of botulism, or just some sort of neurotoxin that just kind of makes somebody's brain go completely wombat and stays permanent. Like people on bath salts, typically after God knows how long a time, they do come down from that high and they become normal people again. Some people, many of these people on the bath salts, for example, they went into the hospital, but they've never been heard from again. And then there was one guy, he was on bath salts and he ate it was either his neighbor's dog or his brother's dog or something like that, and he ate the dog. He ate the poor dog. He started eating the poor dog alive. And he was in, like a week, he was in the hospital. That type of thing with the bath salts. So it'd be something like that. But could you imagine a mass city population for 1 week in bath salt mode or zombie mode, going around just basically as a cannibal trying to eat anything that moved? It would be quite devastating. So that's one kind of scenario that because it has happened on small scales, there's usually about 6,000 incidents a year, give or take, of people resorting to kind of crazy kind of cannibalism type of things like that. So technically you wouldn't call them zombies, but zombie-like behavior. And not all of it is bath salt related. So there's other things that, what is it that they have? Maybe they have some sort of parasite in the brain. You never know, right? But again, just imagine a mass casualty of people behaving that way in a city somewhere. So how that would be very overwhelming. Even if it was a curable thing and short-lived, the chaos would be insurmountable, right? And just picture a whole country like that. 1 week, okay, 1 week of people, saying like 90% of the population in that, could be so devastating because of the unforeseen consequences, such as, like, say, nuclear power stations unmanned. You have meltdowns at the power stations because everybody's in zombie mode, right? That type of thing. So it could be just so catastrophic, right? Yeah, but I'm an optimist. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, and then I guess the last one. Okay, so we have recorded, like I say, recorded that kind of zombie-like behavior, and then the last part, which I remember a friend of mine told me maybe 3 or 4 years ago. He was reading a study that said the first person to live to 1,000 years old has already been born. Now, this may kind of go on the fountain of youth kind of sci-fi. Well, I guess it's all kind of sci-fi at this point. But not necessarily, because there is some literal terms that we've already say, okay, well, it's not the technical term of zombie, but they went nuts like zombies, like the bath salts, the botulism from the Shakespeare play, and then of course now they've with the stem cell research and stuff like that, they believe they found a DNA sequence, the genome that they've been messing around with, that doesn't necessarily stop aging, but it almost stops aging, to the point where you would definitely rejuvenate your cells. And they did this, okay, this is the kicker, they did this on corpses, okay, they did this on people who are deceased, and they got basically living tissue in dead people. I can't remember where I saw this study. I'm sure somebody will find it for me and they'll post it down below. That's kind of what they did. They basically rejuvenated dead tissue, okay? So maybe not a whole corpse, but dead tissue, and they rejuvenated it again. Meaning you're 1 accidental step away from Walking Dead. If you can rejuvenate, now mind you, maybe like a zombie would come up and okay, they've been dead, but as you know, maybe they're stupid at first, but then they become smarter and they become more like the what's the one uh, Resident Evil kind of zombies, where they're not really zombies, they're more like monsters. And they're really intelligent and really fast. Why? Because they went the opposite way, where they went reanimated corpse, but they went their system went into like kind of a over regenerated, overcharged kind of system, and then all of a sudden you don't have human beings, you have these kind of monsters running around. Zombie Hulks. Yeah, that would be kind of craziness. Zombie Hulk chickens. That's just terrifying. Okay, yeah. I don't know if I should tell you guys this one. This one might give you nightmares, but I'll leave it on this. Zombie Hulk chicken vegetarians. Ugh. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, and like. G'day, hi, and welcome. Okay, this one's not going to be for kids. It might be a little bit graphic, so for sensitive viewers, maybe you might want to. If you're going to look away, now's the time, because we're going to be talking about zombie chickens. Oh my god, quack. No, not quack, cluck. Oh my god. Yeah, zombie chicken viruses. Okay, now, this has to do with a story going from... Well, it's kind of... A lot of people are covering it, but I'm getting it from Mail Online, and... This is the Pentagon's guide, and this is, okay, yeah, the Pentagon's guide to surviving a zombie apocalypse. The U.S. military plans how to deal with undead chickens, space invaders, and vegetarians. Yeah, the vegetarians, that sounds dangerous. Okay, so the Pentagon has a plan in order to preserve the sanctity of human life, revealed in an unclassified document called CONOP 8888. The document, dated April 30th, 2011, is detailed synopsis for battling zombies. Plans include collecting grain for water and consumption. And smoking zombies with, shooting them and stuff. It's not often you hear of a zombie fears of a zombie invasion, and if you do, it's almost certainly on television. But the events of the apocalypse brought about by an armed army of undead, the Pentagon has a plan in order to preserve the sanctity of human life among all non-zombie humans. The country's contingency plans for zombie onslaught emerged in the form of an unclassified document obtained by a foreign policy magazine called CONOP 8888, otherwise known as Counter Zombie Dominance. Okay, where did they get D on it? Okay, whatever. Yeah, so, okay, so keep going with the story here. Alright, the document is dated April 30th and is a detailed synopsis of battling many kinds of zombies. According to the plan, worst case threat scenario is a zombie attack in which zombies eating lots of humans, therefore infecting quickly and leaving little time for response. The document also addresses CZs, otherwise known as chicken zombies. Dem's the bad ones. Although it sounds ridiculous, this is actually one proven case of zombies that actually exist. The plan states, yeah. So there are chicken. Yeah. The so-called CZ occurs when hens that can no longer lay eggs are euthanized by farmers with carbon monoxide, buried and then claw their way back to the surface. CONOP 8888 notes. Otherwise possible attacks include evil magic zombies. That's horrible. Created through occult experimentation, and vegetarian zombies. Well, you might not think of vegetarian zombies as a threat, but then once they start eating all the trees, then the oxygen will go away and we'll die. So we have to shoot them too. Doesn't say anything about shooting them, but I'll just add that in there. But anyway, which survives on plants, so pose no threats to human life, and zombies from space. As killer clowns from Mars. Have you ever seen that? Or, yeah. or Killer Clowns from Space, whatever it was. If you ever get a chance to see that movie, it's like one of the worst B movies you'll ever watch, and you'll laugh your ass off. The report contains a disclaimer that this plan was not actually designed as a joke, but originated after the military planners in Omaha, Nebraska, wanted a scenario dealing with a wide spread of national emergencies. The creation of a zombie attack plan that covered